on the billies and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. This a we we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This a we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. This a we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This a we da fear. Nobody give it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head on the Belize and dollar because patriots.
Sunday Review, the only news review talk show here in Belize. I'm Sister YaYa, Marin Coleman, producer and host. And we are, you can say with XTV Belize local channel, live streaming on Creme Radio. You can go to YouTube and Facebook, XTV Belize, for tune in to this hype conversation packed with knowledge, expertise, and relatable to the people in the Caribbean specifically. We have good troublemakers, co-host revolutionary Mutota. Brother Akko, go ahead and introduce my guest this morning. Mike there, Brother Akko.
Good morning, Sister. Good morning to our guests, Dr. Tamanisha John and Dr. Wang Sorillo from both Trinidad and Venezuela. Good morning to our listening audience on XTV and Creme Radio. It is a great pleasure that I introduce Dr. Tamanisha John, a political scientist, and Wang Sorillo, and John Sorillo, as we say in English. And John has both Venezuelan and Trinidad background. John is also an anthropologist who was educated in Venezuela and who now lives in Trinidad. Those are our two guests this morning. John has direct experiences of living in Venezuela during the early years of Hugo Chavez and who continues to visit Trinidad. Dr. John has written extensively on Caribbean issues, on banking and so on, and is considered one of the outstanding young intellectuals in the Caribbean. So I now introduce to you our guests, Dr. Tamanisha John and John Sorillo.
Morning, Sister and Brother. How are you both being this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me on here, and I look forward to the conversation today.
Comrade.
Good morning. Yes, good morning. Good morning. Well, I'm just, it looked very bright, and I believe that it will be going good.
Good, Brother. I could have one collection news stories from Cuba, Venezuela, Guyana, Trinidad, Tobago, Colombia, and let's get started, Brother Akko.
So we begin this morning with a headline out of Venezuela, written by Vijay Prashad, Indian historian and the director of the Tricontinental. And the headline is, "Why did Trump send his warships to Venezuela?" So I'm going to just read a bit of it and ask our guests to comment. And Vijay begins by saying, beyond all interests, he argues that the US escalation against Venezuela is about re-establishing its hegemony in the hemisphere. Ever since Hugo Chavez came to power in 1998, the United States has attempted to overthrow the Bolivarian Revolution. They have tried everything short of a full-scale military invasion, a military coup, selecting a substitute president, cutting off access to the global financial system, imposing layers of sanctions, sabotaging the electricity grid, sending in mercenaries and attempting to assassinate its leaders. If you can think of a method to overthrow a government, the United States has likely tried it against Venezuela. However, in 2025, the escalation became unmistakable unmistakable. The US sent its warships to patrol Venezuela's coast, began sinking small boats and killing those on board as they left the South American mainland, and seized an oil tanker bound for Cuba. The quantity of attacks on Venezuela has increased, suggesting the quality of the threats have now reached a different magnitude. It seems as if the United States is preparing for a full-blown invasion of the country. So this is what I would begin with here, and stop here with this extract and hear the comments from.
Your thoughts, Sister Dr. Manisha?
Yes. So I would say that the Trump administration, while they are aggressively attacking Venezuela, and they plainly stated that they wanted to take land and oil from Venezuela, something to keep in mind that I think Prashad maybe also pointed out in his piece is the US goal for wider hemispheric dominance. And so it is not just sort of attacking Venezuela to, acquire oil reserves in Venezuela, but the US is invested in electing right-wing leaders throughout the hemisphere, from Central America, into South America, and in the Caribbean as well. And so, they've uplifted the Argentinian president, Milei, so that he can sort of get reelected. And you really saw him posting this illustration on social media saying that the right is returning in South America and the left is on retreat. And so when the US has this strategy to pivot into the Western Hemisphere, as is outlined in sort of the Trump strategy release file that they sent out, it is about acquiring Venezuela oil, and it is about installing a right-wing puppet government in Venezuela that could, by no standard, win in any sort of democratic elections. I also think that that's why they've critiqued Petro in Colombia, even though Colombia is a US security partner. And I would imagine that they would do the same thing to Lula. It is not just that they want to resource grab in the Caribbean and South American region, but they also want to install right-wing governments as part of their strategy to compete against China, as right-wing governments are less likely to engage in the types of investment deals and also the Belt and Road Initiative than sort of like, center left, or even left-leaning governments. And so I think it's a strategy of total hemispheric dominance, which is why the US is refocusing on the Western Hemisphere and being more aggressive in that sort of reorientation or refocusing on the hemisphere.
Thank you, Sister Doc. Comrade John.
All let me start first to begin. Remember that really and truly I have dual citizenship, but my education, like I say, was in Venezuela. In other words, my first language is Spanish, or Castellano, like they call it, right? And then come the English. So I just put this because we learn through some time. It's have some expression that I cannot go through in the English. Well, the situation in Venezuela I'm living in Venezuela since I had 1 or 2 years old. My parents really and truly was Venezuelan in Trinidad. And this due to the exchange between both countries, the east part of Venezuela and the Trinidad island, where we eventually, it's a kind of cultural exchange. And that make that many, in the 19th century, many peon and things, they came to Trinidad because they have a link. Remember, Trinidad was a province of Venezuela in the colonial time, right? A province, right? So all these things now is just something of the history. But anyhow, since I'm in Venezuela, Venezuela really and truly is a country where let me say, when I came to Trinidad, it was a cultural shock for me. And was a cultural shock because really and truly, I look at it like too materialistic, in the sense that really, in Venezuela, I could say like a colloquial phrase like, for instance, we one eat, two eat. We two eat, three eat. Now, we one eat, one eat. And that's it, right? So the situation now in Venezuela, that Venezuela, yes, is a rich country in mineral and et cetera, the situation in the United States of America always was behind to target Latin America, South America especially, even when they did have the Conference of Panama in the time of Simon Bolivar, right? And Simon Bolivar really introduced the United States like a very, very enemy for a long time ago. So Venezuela people, we struggle for our right. We fight for our right, and that's the way we was taught since in school, right? And beside that now, in the time when I was living to it, as a matter of fact, the richness of Venezuela was so high that the coin was silver, was pure silver, the coin, and then so they used the coin with pure silver. But then little by little is the one who have the biggest oil reserve, but that oil reserve, the United States did know it long time ago. However, it's Chavez who come and change everything. And he changed it really and truly because, I mean, I agree with him too, because he changed it just because the people and them were suffering in Venezuela with all those rich oils and things. They really and truly didn't have the opportunity. Only an elite was there. It's a kind of class, lucha de clases, social struggle. When Chavez came to power, everything was they look at it, the one who is controlling it look at it like something nice. But when Chavez came to power, eventually, he came to power because you might accuse him like the cause of it, but he's not the cause, the consequence of the situation, what was going on in Venezuela. We're eventually a rich country and our poverty was very, very high. Chavez he was when Chavez come through Venezuela, he really truly he wasn't going to start to be a military in the academy. No, he didn't want to go and he want to be a baseball player. But however, he come through, and when he went to the army, then he started to go through and study a lot and study Simon Bolivar more Bolivariano. And little by little, they was already creating that is the Fourth Republic, right? In the 60s, 70s, approximately something going already. They were already creating slowly a kind of a group, or in other words, social consciousness in the military, really and truly call it the military of Venezuela now. And this now, in the year of 1980, 89, Carlos Andres Perez, who was he was one of the president and them, and the second time he was in power, he eventually started to follow the IMF and all these type of institute, and that caused a real protest for the people, which they call it El Caracazo, and this caused eventually it was a disaster, and then after this experience, people didn't know that eventually Chavez was going through the situation, looking at maybe inside his environment, and certainly now in the 4th of February of 1992, is not a mistaken, he in 1992, he gave a coup. And this coup now, well,
in about 2 minutes, we'll need to wrap this on the story, brother. You have another 2 minutes.
Well, anyhow, the situation is that really, the United States just want to get the oil of Venezuela. Let's put it in that situation. And what can I say that eventually I see the fight. I see what's going on. Venezuela start to join Russia in the beginning of Chavez because really and truly the airplane what he brought from the United States that wasn't getting part, and it's something similar when Cuba they changed the system in Cuba. That's what happened in Venezuela in the beginning, and therefore the United States start to give embargo often. And you all see what's going on in the situation now. See, I cannot go beyond that at the moment because that's it.
Thanks. We appreciate that comprehensive point of view. But I got the next story.
Also, we have another story coming out of Venezuela again, in which the headline is "Solidarity with Venezuela in the Belly of the Beast." And this is from an activist in the US called Elizabeth Blaney. And she's making the point that US aggression, as the aggression escalates, the working class and immigrant communities inside the United States are increasingly linking war abroad with repression and austerity at home. She's head of the group that organizes and mobilizes tenants. And recently she was in Venezuela to attend a conference. And so they are trying to advocate and advocate for and educate the US population about the realities of US wars abroad, and particularly this war that the US seems to be planning against Venezuela and how it is going to impact people. She works in East Los Angeles, and her population is majority Latino, African American, and Asian. And many have come from countries abroad, according to her, that experience violence as a direct result of US intervention. And because of that, these communities understand and recognize the real situation behind the motivations of the US government in doing what they are doing in Venezuela. There is strong opposition to the war and a clear demand for the United States to get out of the Caribbean. People also understand that funding war comes directly at their expense. We have lost school programs, social services, and benefits. Starting in January, many people in the US will lose Medicaid support. There's a widespread understanding that public resources are being redirected to fund wars. So beyond solidarity or morality, there's also a concrete economic reason that people oppose and must oppose war. They know that they're already paying the price and will continue to pay the price. And because of this understanding, it has translated into an organization. She goes on to state that people want to learn more and get involved in the growing anti-war movement, and their leadership has participated in solidarity protests across LA where they are. The ongoing ICE raids have also deepened understanding of what is happening to Venezuela. Witnessing family members, friends, and neighbors abducted by ICE has generated fear, but also a growing disposition to resist. Many people now understand that retreating into fear only strengthens the state. They also recognize that the same violence that the US government deploys against them in the US is being used against the people of Venezuela and Palestine. This has led to a broad rejection of imperialist aggression, people overwhelmingly opposing the imperialist military buildup regarding Venezuela and the Caribbean. So this is where I would stop. And again, to hear comments based on that request for solidarity.
I appreciate the centering of people. I read an article that Sister Dr. Tamanisha wrote for Black Agenda Report in September 2025, the historical and contemporary role of neo-colonial Caribbean governments in supporting US militarism and imperialism in the region. If you don't read it, go read it and read it again and again and again till you get it. So, make I hear Sister Doc, because I know you broke it down for you right now on your center people.
Yeah, so one thing I will say is that it is a fallacy to assume that if the US was to stop investing in war, it would invest in public resources or in communities in the United States. The US has no interest in uplifting working class or immigrant communities within the country. If those fundings were not going to commit war abroad, the US would finally, devise it in some other mischievous way to amass wealth that would exploit people. Oftentimes, I hear progressive voices in the US say, don't go to war. When they go to war, they're not investing in our health, they're not investing in our schools, and they're not investing in our education. But what we do know is that the US just has no interest in investing in public goods. They would better off give that money to capitalists like Elon Musk and other AI financiers versus investing in public resources. And so from that, with that understanding, just acknowledging that the US is not interested in investing in public resources, then we come to the position that we are not simply anti-war, but we must be anti-imperialist. Because the second that we say we are anti-war, and the US is a very nationalistic country, at any event that the US attacks Venezuela and Venezuela then attacks US soldiers, those same Americans who would say we oppose war would come out and say, no, we need to attack Venezuela since some of our soldiers died. So this is why we have to be anti-imperialist because then we oppose colonialism and we make these connections in a much harsher sense. So what does that mean? When we say we're anti-imperialist, we must oppose the sanctions on Venezuela. Currently, the US has a very xenophobic administration, and it has, rallied a lot of nationalisms in the country to be xenophobic as well. Well, we know that sanctions make living in countries extremely hard. So if you have a 10 or more decade sanction against Venezuela, then we already know people's lives are being made hard, and so they'll want to come and migrate. And it's those same people that are going to be deported and be targeted by ICE. In fact, the US is not going to say, oh, we'll stop spending money on war and invest in local communities within the United States. They're going to say, okay, we're no longer invested in war. Let us invest these funds in ICE to deport immigrants in the United States, right? Again, the exploitative mechanism. And so people have to say we oppose sanctions because sanctions make life hard for people and they push people to flee. We must also say that we oppose resource grabs and people not being able to have their own self-determination within their own governments if it is the case that we don't want immigrants coming into the United States, as is the nationalism that they sort of push. And then when we talk about people, we must also say that we're anti-imperialist because imperialism does not care about people. You can have a government in Trinidad, for instance, who supports US imperialism, then use their own people as fodder. They have nothing to say when Trinidadians are dead. They have nothing to say when boats are bombed without any evidence of any drugs, even though drugs is a fallacious myth that they've used in the first place. And they can use all of these things because it sort of rallies a weird type of nationalism amongst the people, since people aren't making the connections between imperialism. Imperialism does not invest in the people. And I think that that is a better messaging versus saying don't go to war because then we're not getting public resources. When the truth is, even if there was no war, there still would not be these investments in public resources, since the United States does not care about working class or immigrant communities within the United States, and they definitely don't care about them abroad. And I think that the government in Trinidad, who's saying like, oh, don't critique the United States since they'll take away our visas, uh, people must, especially in media, must viscerally oppose that messaging because in the event of a hot war, when Trinidad is used as a proxy, there is no situation where the administration of Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and Marco Rubio would extend a large number of visas to Trinidadians that are predominantly Black and Indian when those same people have came out saying they don't want any more Black people and Indian people in their country. That is imperialism. And if you are only anti-war, you cannot explain those dynamics. Imperialism talks about how these things are relationally connected, and I think that that is what our focus should be on.
Thank you, sister. That comrade.
Just a minute.
Waiting for him to come back on camera.
While
And
John is getting his act together, okay, I see his camera.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen, yes, okay. Sorry for that, right? In Venezuela, for instance, where Trinidad is two different things now. We always, since we in school, so especially when you go secondary, they always talk about the United States of America, the one who had the big stick. They always. As a matter of fact, when I never liked to go to the United States. I never liked to go to the United States. I never go to the United States. The only time I went to the United States, not to the United States, was for a conference or about the celebration of emancipation in Puerto Rico, 100 and something years. And for that, when I went to the embassy to get my visa, I had to wake up like 4 o'clock in the morning or more. And when I reached to the officer, he asked me question and telling what are you going to do? Well, I told him, listen, you know what? If you want me, because I am not interested to go to the United States. I just go into Puerto Rico because they invite me there and they want to see me. You can give him my visa to go leave this morning and come back in the evening. So you get it, he stamped it one time. That to show you that I really and truly, I don't know. So I am because really and truly, so I was taught. However, we know in Venezuela, we fight for our right. The United States of America, eventually, when Chavez came to power, was controlling As a matter of fact, the computer of PDVSA to control PDVSA was in Miami. And Chavez, Intensa was the name. So you could see the control of the oil, which the United States was having in the previous government, and then what they call the Fourth Republic. So what is happening there now? When times start to change, certainly, and United States, of course, we change it and we get into the oil. We have to have the benefit of the people. The people we have to invest in, and all these change that went through in Venezuela. What makes through a fight and stay steady. As a matter of fact, in some Chavez, I think we're going to 27 years under the revolution process. And we start there, and we stand up, and we give a good resistance for everything. United States of America, all what the situation what the United States of America is doing at the moment is giving us a psychological shock, just to make you to scare you, to afraid of everything. But they cannot do it. They do it, but they cannot get they cannot get how to control the situation of Venezuela. Venezuela is a fighting nation since in the 19th century. Venezuela was the Libertador Simon Bolivar. All these things have in the Venezuelan blood, and all these things when they're fighting for the right, all, no matter old people, big people, everybody have ammunition already to confront this thing. The reason, and beside that, the real backup for the United States at the moment. What happened to the United States? Of course, they try all the situation, all the methodology to try to see how they can get rid of Maduro or Venezuela. But they notice that it cannot be. They cannot do it. As a matter of fact, I can say that they even bless Venezuela. Why? Because really truly all the coast, the north coast of Venezuela is mountain. How can you invade a country so? They know they cannot invade it. It is very difficult to go there, and you don't know what are you going to get. So the situation is really we're fighting for our right. We're fighting for our nation. We give it. At the moment, everything in Venezuela, I can tell you, is normal. Everybody is partying, they're dancing, they're doing it. But however, they are aware of the situation, and they prepare for if in case anything is happening. In the other part of here in Trinidad, well, it will be kind of difficult for me to express myself freely, because remember that at the moment, this thing about Trinidad and getting let's say given the opportunity the United States to use the island, that was was long time ago, because really truly before we heard that, we was in a state of emergency, and we're still in a state of emergency. So it's just to have the people quiet. But beside that, now is a very different culture between Venezuela and Colombia. Venezuela, they will fight and they don't care losing their life for the country. So that's a situation very interesting, but really, truly, that's the way we was taught. I can. What can I say again? That's the situation. And if I start to speak about,
we got a break
go
in
ahead.
2 minutes.
All right. So YaYa, I wanted to just make a statement on what Dr. John said, which is something I've repeated over and over, that we must have understand this in the context of anti-imperialism. She's absolutely correct. And just to support what John said, there's a piece of news that again came out from Venezuela, and we could end it on that. We don't need to comment on it, but it's the headline out of Venezuela. It's called "A Day at the Races: How Venezuelans find joy despite familiar political turmoil." And it says that it begins with the two horses galloping, one called Silca and one called Mr. Thunder. And Venezuelans at the racetrack, a crowd instead of mostly low-income people in the capital enjoying a day of races with jockeys from the United States and elsewhere, despite the increasingly tense political climate around them. Right? The country's protracted crisis has accustomed to unpredictability, years of political threats. Even as the possibility of a U.S. military attack on Venezuela exists, people are enjoying themselves. And this is what is John just said there, and a couple of the documentaries I looked at, reports outside of people inside Venezuela. The people in Venezuela, while they are ready for an attack, they are not letting the situation, keep them down in any way, and they are trying to live as best as they possibly could, given the circumstances. I think this is something people must understand. They are not fearful of the United States, and I think that too is also causing a lot of consternation among U.S. military planners. But go ahead. Yes.
A second. And what I was saying, that the situation with Venezuela now is why it's so complicated for the United States. The United States don't want, seeing that Venezuela keep the resistance and showing an example from the other countries, for United States is very dangerous, this, because they know the other country can follow. That's what I'm going to say.
So that will go ahead and take our first break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, okay.
It's an massive season with massive deals and rewards at Penny's. From now through December 31st, earn double B-Bucks on store-wide purchasing every Saturday. That's right, 2 times the B-Bucks, which means 2 times the cash back when shopping at Penny's. Plus, get even more rewards with B-Bucks Builders on home goods, tiles, appliances, paints, and lights. And don't forget, there's also massive deals and discounts on tiles and the best brands in paints like Benjamin Moore and BH. Rewards, deals, B-Bucks. You can get it all this massive season only at Penny's. Quality and savings.
This holiday season, stay connected across borders with Smart's Mexico and now USA roaming bundles. Available now through December 31st. Enjoy 4,096 megabytes of roaming data for only $27 or other packages for as low as $8. Staying home for the holidays? Sign up for a postpaid plan and get a Samsung A16 for as low as $190 or Samsung A26 for $315, or pick up devices without a plan starting at $100 for our GST weekend special. And this December, text to win. Simply text WIN to 438 for your chance to win big. Each entry is just $1 of prepaid credit. More entries mean more chances to win daily prizes like fuel vouchers, groceries, and more, leading to our big giveaway week, December 15th to 24th. We're giving away amazing prizes like fridge, TV, stove. And on December 24th, the grand prize of $5,000 will be announced. These deals won't last long, so make the smart switch today. Travel more, share more, and save more with Smart. Smart, bringing people together.
It is a pleasure to welcome you all to this signing ceremony for the reconstruction of the swing bridge. For generations, it has stood as the beating heart of downtown Belize City.
Over the years, the swing bridge has evolved into a prime tourist attraction and a symbol of Belize's rich history. We are here today to build not only a bridge in the physical sense, but a bridge of enduring cooperation and friendship between Belize and Japan.
The current bridge replacement is designed to be a 2-span steel concrete positive slab bridge. It will span a length of 42 meters long, placed on a skew to improve the alignment of adjoining streets. The new bridge tapers from a minimum of 14 meters wide to a maximum width of 18 meters at its widest point.
The agency has defined the division of work between 2 offices, and I, as the chief representative, has hold the responsibility of signing the agreement, while all the operations in Belize are managed by JICA Belize office.
People-to-people exchanges between Belize and Japan are extremely active. This time, a physical bridge will be built between the 2 countries.
We value this collaboration and the expertise being brought to this process. This replacement bridge puts climate adaptation and accessibility at the forefront reducing risk, improving reliability, and supporting the continued economic activity in Belize City.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
It all started this morning when Mommy said we have to behave real good and dress up for Mr. Cordell's Christmas party. I don't know why, cause I always behave good. So me, my sister, and all my cousins reach, and wow, a lot of kids, a lot of fun. We get our face painted, baby sis turned into a cutely reindeer. We eat and drink all kind of things. My favorite was the churros and cotton candy. Then, the bouncy house and trampoline. Yeah, that's where I nearly broke my teeth. And of course, the best part, the gifts. Dolls, cars, puzzles, everybody gets something good. Mr. Cordell Hyde really did a good job. I had so much fun with my friends.
One of the reasons I applied for a credit card at Atlantic Bank was because I travel a lot. I'm always going here and there and everywhere, and having that card made my life so much easier. I could literally charge everything. I had no issues. I don't have to worry about carrying money. And that has been one of the most effective points. Using my Atlantic Bank credit card has improved my life drastically. I learned to budget properly, the online service that it gives, the features that it has, and also knowing that when I'm shopping online, it has a protective feature for it. Having an Atlantic Bank credit card, especially having two sons that are always wanting something. They want to shop here and they want to shop there. The good part about it is I get to look at Atlantic online to see where my spending is and to make sure I'm staying in budget.
Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
Oh, I wasn't having a bad day. I just needed...
It's here, the biggest sale of the year. Find your happy place at Builders Hardware with our happy sale from October 15th to December 31st. Whether you're a contractor or a DIY pro, we got unbeatable prices that will put a big smile on your face. Freshen up your walls with 20% off all paints and 25% off paint supplies. Upgrade your space with 25% off lights, fans, AC, and a wide selection of tiles to match your style. Plus, enjoy 30 to 50% off selective items. But that's not all. We also sell sand and gravel, blocks, roofing, and more. Find everything you need from construction start to finish. Don't miss out on our happy deals. Shop today or explore our online store at shopbuildersbz.com. Visit Builders Hardware in Belmopan. This is your happy place.
This a creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. Creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. Creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. Creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. From the border to the boulevard, physical fit. On to my agony, strength in a hit. Big up the farmer champions, them we do it. But who take the crown in a 2026? This a creme New Year's Day cycling classic. Straight to Belize from the northern district. To win this race, every cyclist dream. They make them boast, them take the sugar and cream. This a creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. Creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream.
It's the Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic. All top-class riders hit the pavement for the start of the cycling calendar. Thursday, January 1st, it's the Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic.
This a Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. Cream, 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 cream.
Nobody give it to nobody, Guatemala. This a DPA, we don't figure. Nobody give it to nobody, Guatemala. This a me, my name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it, sir. Don't tell me about maritime area. Long time ago, agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head on the Belize and dollar because patriots All people who love them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. This a we we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help and the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help and the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help and the Belize and dollar because to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help and the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the help and the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, love them homeland, will never give it up to another nation. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. Follow me now. This a we the fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the
I heard Christy to say, time to go back, and I have such a beautiful time during the break to listen and learn. Apologies, we should have been back. Today you have myself, Brother Akko, Sister Doc Tamanisha, John, who's a political scientist, and comrade John, last name Sorillo, and he's a archaeologist. I'm sorry, anthropologist. I keep on getting man other profession. He's actually a scholar activist. That's what he is.
That's a branch of the archaeology is a branch of anthropology.
Thank you for the clarity. And I know Brother Akko have other stories to read or to share. But during the break, we had a really juicy exchange, and I just want to bring it forward because it is important. Tamanisha, summarize what we just done talk about as the youngest person in this space, and we like talk about the majority of the world population are youths, but there's usually a generation gap between the generation before and how we do things and how we pass the baton for younger people to do things. But the world is evolving, methodologies change, young people connect differently. So if you could just summarize what we talk about in the break, and then say that last piece what you said just now, because I think it's important for others to hear.
Yeah, so I was saying how when we talk about political education, it's not just that we have to sit down and read and read and read, but we have to put things into practice for young people to see if they work and then come back to the drawing board, since we live in a sort of generation of instant gratification. And so waiting isn't always appealing to young people, which is why it's easier for them to attend spontaneous protests and stuff. So we have to operate around this as well, in the sense that our political education should be matched with some sort of praxis so that they could come back and think about what's working, what's not working, and, be engaged in that way of doing.
I learned that terminology from all the campaign Stop the Mangamise campaign out of the UK, which deals with African reparations, and they call it action learning. And so I find that everyday people are actually doing liberation work, but to them it's not liberation work. They're just doing what they need to do for survive every day. But then if they had somebody who come and connect that gap with one theory and for their action, what they do, they're like, oh my gosh, disconnected. I never know that what this is. Brother Akka, next story. Thanks, Sister Dr. Tamanisha. Brother Akka, next story.
Very, very important point she made, because that has been the problem with a lot of organizations, in that we get caught up, and I know I have left at least 2 in the past 5 years. We get caught up in these theoretical frameworks and ideological frameworks, right? Whether we have this particular perspective, that particular perspective, and we get so caught up that we forget to do something. And I think that's where we alienate young people. You remember I recall to you in our conversation the idea of a group we had, and some people wanted to call it a Pan-African group, and some people wanted to name, and we spent so much time talking about that we ended up doing nothing. And that is what is happening with a lot of organizations. I know, for example, in the Caribbean and in community organizations. Or some people get caught up with the bureaucratic, the robust rules of order, and so on. And at the end of it, you alienate young people. So that's a very important thing. Something has to be done. It is only out of practice that theory comes. And then when you get the theory, you have to apply it to practice again. So the whole thing keeps moving along. And that is something that I think a lot of activists do not understand. So the next piece is coming out of Tobago. And for those who have been following the news, you would know that the U.S. installed a radar in Tobago. And what is this headline is alarm over suspected U.S. military base in Tobago. The people of Tobago are saying it's not just a radar, but there is a sense that there's a military base. So let me just read part of the headlines for you to comment on it. There's no campaigning for the House of Assembly election, which is the local government body in Tobago. And so there's a political campaign on now. And the headline begins with, political parties in Tobago have expressed shock and concern over what they believe may be a United States military base operating alongside the controversial U.S. installed radar at the ANR Robinson International Airport. There's footage of the heavily guarded cordon-off facility housing the radar. The images show several trucks and utility vehicles positioned within the restricted area, along with a small tent and other temporary structure located close to the equipment. Okay, a number of toilets and so on have been there. While the spinning of the Gator radar is visible at the end of what is called Kilwin Bay Road in Bon Accord, access to the site is restricted by metal barriers, right? There are some rooms for rent nearby housing. However, one business place, which asked for anonymity, said shortly after the radar was installed, they were cautioned by military personnel to not allow guests into certain rooms that could have access view to the cordon-off facility. Meanwhile, residents living nearby politely declined to offer their 2-story homes as vantage points, saying they fear that any images or video could be traced back to them, right? In any event, residents noted that even from their balconies, their view remains obscured by galvanized fence and tall trees. Right? So what is happening here, and as the article goes on, it says that this military facility or this radar is in a residential area, right? with a civilian population, right? And according to the residents, it is not just a radar. Apparently, there are U.S. troops there, and which is what happens in Ukraine, for example. All the U.S. equipment is accompanied by U.S. troops, and the government is withholding this information and trying to mislead the population of Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, one of the commentators said the government is not being honest, right? And Tobagonians are lamenting about how many U.S. military personnel are in the jurisdiction. So I will end here and have comments from our guests on this particular article.
So I don't know if you know, but late last night / early this morning, it was broken in the news that there's a suspected U.S. military base in Tobago near that radar that was captured by drone footage, precisely because of the concerns that you stated. People who live in the area didn't want to be pinpointed or their locations pinpointed if they did take pictures. But as with any sort of what I would call a foreign investment, and it is a U.S. foreign military investment that is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, it frequently comes with its own administrators of that investment. They are not seeking Tobagoans or, Trinidadians to sort of guard or monitor or even learn them and how to take care of these equipments. It is all U.S. based. And so because of that, it is no shock that U.S. troops are accompanying a U.S. radar system. What happens is anytime there are these types of investments, and again, I'm saying that the U.S. has a military investment now in Trinidad, they bring their own people because they do not want to leave Caribbean states or Caribbean countries with any sort of know-how or intelligence that the country or the country people itself could use, or that they say, oh, it might get into the hands of one of their adversaries in the future. And so the U.S. is using Trinidad as an outpost. Trinidad, the government there has consented to being a proxy in the event of any hot war. And as I highlighted in another piece that I wrote for the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective blog, in the event that a hot war were to break out, casualties in Trinidad would just be casualties. The U.S. would not care. We saw where Israel bombed Qatar, one of the strongest U.S. security allies in the region, and the U.S. did not retaliate. And what did they bomb? They bombed a residential building claiming that they were getting one Hamas leader, right? And so that these types of equipments would be installed in residential areas is not a cause for concern. What is a cause for concern, though, is the fact that the Trinidadian government has not been communicating with officials in Tobago. And I guess part of the estimation is more or less where she views her constituency within the island. However, there are reports that the U.S. is also thinking about installing a radar in Trinidad itself. So not just in Tobago, but a second one in Trinidad itself. And again, all of this would be in residential areas. The U.S. has almost collided now twice with commercial planes in the Caribbean leaving Curacao. And so the location isn't revealing. The fact that U.S. personnel are accompanying these equipments are not revealing, again, because they don't leave any know-how, right? And I think that this is important to understand because this is, in fact, an imperial relationship encouraged and incentivized by a neocolonial government in Trinidad.
Big respect, comrade. John?
Oh, hello?
Yes. You want to add something before we go to break?
Yeah, well, no, I agree with what Dr. John explained. Yeah, but this is the situation. You see that really truly, when we're supposed to be protesting or trying to prevent that, everything is silence. Because really and truly, I don't know what's going on, but when you remember that we have a state of emergency here, so that is the situation. They do things, but if, as a matter of fact, I believe that if they didn't have this state of emergency, they would have pulled it too. Because the society is something very, how can I tell you, very complicated in this situation. Those who really and truly interested, they're there to do something constructive, but them, you see, I just look this from in my opinion. At the moment I'm living in Trinidad and Tobago, and in my opinion, I consider myself really more in Venezuelan than Trinidadian, right? But what happened now? I more have worried to Trinidad Island in this moment than Venezuela. Venezuela, for my opinion, know how to defend themselves. But in Trinidad now here, we're in a situation real critical. And nobody said nothing. That's the situation, what I can say. I mean, in Venezuela, if you're doing this thing, one time they protested. But nobody's doing protests, nobody's saying nothing. And if you do talk, somebody will come to your door and knock you, and that's it.
Thanks, brother. Sister Doc, this is one of the things she posted in the chat. She said, to be clear, much of the media in Venezuela is owned by right-wing opposition, but they do have a state media for people to turn to in order to see how the state versus private media deviate on these things. In Trinidad, this does not exist.
Sorry. In Venezuela, eventually, yes, but in Venezuela, we have much more balance. Venezuela have Telesul, Venezuela have many TV stations, Venezuela have plenty radio stations. As a matter of fact, at the moment in Venezuela, you have more communication because even they have community who have communication with like a website. Everybody communicate together, right? So therefore, the Nacional, the Universal is there, which is the most right-wing one. The Última Noticia is middle. So beside that, we have other newspapers. We have La Voz, we have Telesur, which is an international TV station now. So we Chavez with Fidel. That's one of the things where let's say put it there just because to have a contradiction against especially CNN and all those other international news. Thank you.
As one of our listener, George Mavis said, excellent program this morning. Give thanks. We have another 4 minutes. Anybody want to add something on this before we wrap this segment?
Well, the media in the Caribbean has always been right. I mean, if you look at from the Observer in Jamaica, and one of the best examples of how reactionary the media is was during the Grenada Revolution. The entire media in the Caribbean, every single newspaper in the Caribbean at one point in time, from Jamaica to Trinidad, they had one editorial, all of them, condemning Grenada, okay, being critical of the Grenada Revolution. And this has always been the rule of the media in the Caribbean. There was a particular time when, through Caribbean Contact and the Caribbean Council of Churches, there was an attempt to create a sort of independent media, but that has not really succeeded. Now, there are individual newspapers owned by people, but they are not, how can I put it, they are not progressive, and that is a problem. And I don't know if you recall, a few months ago, Sista, we tried to put a group of Caribbean activists together to see if we could create a platform to provide independent news. But what happened with that? There is no action, and we have to there's some responsibility in the progressive movement for not creating some kind of media to counter the dominant established or what they call the legacy media. I mean, you all have done it in Belize, but this is an independently owned television. You all have paper, television, and radio station, but that does not exist very much in the wider Caribbean. We have, like for example, we have a station in Trinidad, which is not one of the major stations, owned by a family I know, but it is aligned to the opposition political party, PNM. So it doesn't provide anything. So when the PNM is out of power, it is very critical of the opposition. And so the PNM is come back to power, it has nothing to say. And so this is what is happening. There is I understand what John is saying. There is an anti-intellectual trend that has emerged in Trinidad and Tobago. That is what I observed after living abroad and returning home in 2006. That was the first thing I identified, an anti-intellectual trend, where people no longer have an interest in learning and intellectual development in the way that they did, during the 70s. Because to get to what Dr. John said, the 1970s in Trinidad was a time of tremendous learning, tremendous consciousness, right? People were reading, there were bookstores and many organizations of the what you call the conventional left and what some people call nationalist organizations. However, there was a move and what we refer to as what is called the counterattack to undermine these progressive forces in the Caribbean. From the unions that were progressive, from the organizations that were progressive. So what you are seeing now, that kind of indifference, that what John calls the ignorance, what you are seeing is a result of years and years of this kind of effort by counter-revolutionary forces, aided by the political parties in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Because they too have contributed. I remember, for example, when we fought the elections in 1981, I was a member of the National Joint Action Committee. And one of the campaign slogans used against us was that if we won the election, we'll make everybody wear long dress, referring to the African clothes that we wore. You see, we'll make people eat in calabash. So they launched this anti-African propaganda because we were visibly African in our imagery, right? Not that we didn't have Indian members, but the two parties propagated this kind of ignorance. When CLR James fought with the Workers and Farmers Party in 1966, the political parties began a campaign saying that because among the Indians, you had a lot of farmers, cattle farmers and agricultural farmers, and among the Africans, and one of the things used against the Workers and Farmers Party was that if CLR, when you will take your cow, you will take your goat, you will take your sheep, right? So this is the kind of campaign that these political parties, and up to today, they still use these kinds of methodologies on the population.
We have to go to break.
All right.
Thanks, Brother Akko, for Kerry Sankofa. Kerry back and bring me forward. Break time.
As we move forward, we invite feedback from our communities and encourage open dialogue so we can ensure Tasty truly reflects the values and taste of Belize. By choosing our products, you are supporting the growth of Belizean agriculture sector and livelihood of farmers. Let us continue to champion local initiatives and work together towards sustainable and prosperous future for our community.
This facility is built to produce an impressive 30 tons of minsa per day. This capacity is almost double the current national consumption in Belize, which is positioned not only to meet local demand, but also to tap into the export markets.
I am certain that you are proud to partner with local farmers and strengthening ties with our agricultural community. By sourcing corn locally, you help support family farms, create jobs, and stimulate economic growth throughout the region. This collaboration is a testament to what can be achieved when industry and agriculture work hand in hand.
This project represents a significant investment of $2,800,000, reflecting not only the scale of its vision, but also our unwavering commitment to long-term national development.
This holiday season, stay connected across borders with Smart's Mexico and now USA roaming bundles. Available now through December 31st. Enjoy 4,096 megabytes of roaming data for only $27 or other packages for as low as $8. Staying home for the holidays? Sign up for a postpaid plan and get a Samsung A16 for as low as $190 or Samsung A26 for $315, or pick up devices without a plan starting at $100 for our GST weekend special. And this December, text to win. Simply text WIN to 438 for your chance to win big. Each entry is just $1 of prepaid credit. More entries mean more chances to win daily prizes like fuel vouchers, groceries, and more, leading to our big giveaway week, December 15th to 24th. We're giving away amazing prizes like fridge, TV, stove. And on December 24th, the grand prize of $5,000 will be announced. These deals won't last long, so make the smart switch today. Travel more, share more, and save more with Smart. Smart, bringing people together.
Electricity is essential for everyday life, but behind every outlet, a lot is happening to bring you safe, reliable, and sustainable energy. Let's start at the beginning. Independent power producers across Belize generate electricity using a mix of renewable and non-renewable resources. Electricity travels across a network of high-voltage transmission lines capable of transmitting electricity across long distances. Electricity then reaches your nearest substation, where it is adjusted to a lower voltage, making it safe to travel on the distribution lines you see in your community. From there, electricity makes its final journey from the distribution lines to your home, providing you with safe and reliable power when you need it. We continue to serve you.
What made me want to start my journey in terms of owning a home was basically me having my own space, my own domain, and having something extremely special for my family. That feeling was indescribable. It was amazing, moving in the first time, seeing all the new furniture, the new paint, the new accessories. I was amazed. Home for the holidays means to me bonding with my family, having an amazing time in the Christmas spirit. I would highly recommend Atlantic Bank's personal loans for home renovations because of what it did for me. I fixed my kitchen, I fixed my storage, I fixed my master bedroom, my showers, you name it, I fixed it.
Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
It's Christmas time at Brothers Habet and Habet, and we have some great gifts for you, like our signature 15% off all Berger, Penta, and domestic paints, and 30 to 40% off selected and discontinued colors, 15% off all power tools, 20 to 30% off select tiles, 20 to 65% off light fixtures, and 40% off sunlight windows and mirrors. Also, GST free days on December 6th and 20th. Plus, for every $50 you spend, get a chance to win a $500 gift certificate in our 12 Days of Christmas giveaway. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from all of us at Brothers Habet and Habet.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
It all started this morning when Mommy said we have to behave real good and dress up for Mr. Cordell's Christmas party. I don't know why, cause I always behave good. So me, my sister, and all my cousins reach, and wow, a lot of kids, a lot of fun. We get our face painted, baby sis turned into a cutely reindeer. We eat and drink all kind of things. My favorite was the churros and cotton candy. Then, the bouncy house and trampoline. Yeah, that's where I nearly broke my teeth. And of course, the best part, the gifts. Dolls, cars, puzzles, everybody gets something good. Mr. Cordell Hyde really did a good job. I had so much fun with my friends.
This a creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. Creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. Creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. Creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. From the border to the boulevard, physical fit. on to mahogany, strength in a it. Big up the farmer champions, them we do it. But who will take the crown in a 2026? This a creme New Year's Day cycling classic. Straight to Belize from the Northern District. To win this race, every cyclist dream. They make them boast, them take the sugar and cream. This a creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream. Creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream.
It's the Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic. All top class riders hit the pavement for the start of the cycling calendar. Thursday, January 1st, it's the Creme New Year's Day Cycling Classic.
This a creme New Year's Day cycling classic. The sugar and the cream, the sugar and the cream, 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 cream.
Guatemala, this a with a figure. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Guatemala. This a with a figure. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. This a we with a fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a we with a fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. This a we with a fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a we with a figure. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad, bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Them country bad, bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. This a we with a fear. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a we with a figure. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This a me name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. No, tell me about maritime.
Segment of Sunday Review where we make sense of the news. And we have about 18 minutes left. Brother Akka, you have another story you want to squeeze in quickly before we get final thoughts?
There are two stories I would like to get in. One, this one is on Guyana, and the headline is A Plutocracy of Local Politicians, Contractors, and Businessmen. It was an article in one of the paper. And it begins with, let's stop pretending. What is happening in Guyana today is not development. It is domination, repackaged and rebranded by a new class of elites who have learned that power in this country is not about service but control. We have replaced foreign masters with local ones who speak our accents, wave our flags, and still treat the majority of us as pawns in their wealth-building experiment. We are living in an age of the new empire, an empire built not by British plutocracy, but by a plutocracy of local politicians, contractors, and businessmen feeding off our oil and gold economy while half the country struggles to eat. The same colonial logic that kept our ancestors in chains now keeps our communities in poverty. It is built on dependency, fear, and a carefully managed illusion that this is the best we can do. Every gala, every private ball, every glittering fancy people photo splash across social media is a taunt, a display of wealth extracted from public resources that belong to the working class, the single mothers, the vendors, the teachers, the nurses, and the pensioners who keep this country running. In a resource-rich nation where more than 50% of citizens live below the poverty line, poverty is not mere mismanagement. Poverty is a direct construct of policy. And I will stop here for commentary on this, Guyana, because this is the supposedly new fastest rising economy in the world. And I know Dr. John will have a lot to say on that, given her roots.
Okay, it has to be short analysis because we're running out of time. Go ahead.
So I would say that that is a amazing letter or statement that you just read, since it is exactly the point. I was telling someone the other day, for the longest while, it was hard for my family to be able to get land outside of where they're from. And now it's like, as long as you have the money, you could basically do whatever you want in the country. There is no accountability for politicians. Journalists and news media are doxxed and attacked in Guyana, offices ransacked almost daily. So there's also this push to keep things like this out of the media, and that is legitimized. I think that we've long had the same recycling of political names in power, but sort of the oil wealth has given them new mandates of longevity that would have been questioned in the past that are not questioned now, because if it is questioned, then you could be attacked. It is a climate of fear. And again, I think people don't want to speak on it because there are real repercussions and consequences. So again, just iterating what YaYa said earlier, even talking about independent media is dangerous work. And there are people who try to do this work and see real stuff happen to them. And so, but yes, everything you said is exactly correct.
Say, are you muted? You are muted to say, I am.
Okay, thank you, Comrade Juan.
No, it's like, I have no, well, I have no opinion about Guyana. You see, I cannot, I don't know.
Okay. You have no comment. Okay. So
No, no comment.
the last piece I want to read, which I think is very important, and it relates to what Dr. John spoke earlier about young people. And it's a piece out of Cuba. And I felt it important to read this piece because that, I think, is a problem in the Caribbean. And me coming from what I might call a publishing background, this is close to my heart. And it's out of Cuba, and it has to do with a project between Cuba and Mexico on encouraging young people to read. The headline is, "The youth of Latin America and the Caribbean deserve to have books in their hands, not just in display cases." And this was a speech delivered by Miguel Diaz-Canel Bermudez, the president of Cuba, just a few days ago. The project was at the launch of a project called 25 for 25. And I will read some excerpts from it and just want your comment. So he began with, "Dear young Cubans, dear friends, when I was invited to speak at the launch of Project 2025 from Cuba, simultaneously with a similar presentation by our beloved President Claudia Sheinbaum from Zicalo in Mexico City, I immediately said yes for 3 reasons. First, the initiative came from a sister nation to which we owe a great deal and which we love. Second, it involves printed books with well-known authors and works, as well as others that we would love to read. And third, although it could be the first reason, it is designed for young people between the ages of 15 and 30 from various countries in our America, right? As a trained engineer, I am passionate about technology. And this is the Cuban president speaking now. As a trained engineer, I'm passionate about technology and enjoy the tremendous advances that are taking place every day in the digital world. But I have never been able to shake my love for printed books or the thrill of reading, eagerly turning the pages to absorb the knowledge they contain. I think there is nothing like a good book to unleash the imagination. And if it is a printed book, then the pleasure of reading is added to that of treasuring ideas and phrases with which you identify so deeply that you mark them in those books that age alongside you with notes. We must thank the government of Mexico and its president, and particularly Paco Ignacio Taibo, who knows Cuba so well and whom we owe so many good books, for including us in this beautiful project. So I will end here. It is a project that was established by Cuba and Mexico to get young people to read. and young people between the ages of 15 and 30, and it was launched simultaneous with the president of Cuba speaking and the president of Mexico speaking at the same time to young people. It's called Project 25 for 25. So I think it fits into the perspective that we shared here this morning. How do we get young people to mobilize, to involve? John spoke about the ignorance. So I don't know if you all want to comment on that article. I think
you each have a minute, and let's keep in mind that a number of young people are struggling readers. Like literacy is not good in the Caribbean. People keep getting these grades and they're not being taught critical thinking, comprehension. It's memorization and rote still for A's. So 1 minute, Comrade Juan, 1 minute, Sister Tamisha.
For example, in Venezuela, when Chavez came to power, really truly, I remember when I came here in 1987, the reading was very poor, right? But when Chavez came to power, it was a methodology that I find was very interesting, that is Hello President. Every Sunday, he had a program, Hello President. And that was to stay at 6, 7, 8 hours. And that was the social consciousness he was giving to the people. And the children from 2, 3 years, you see them talking, reading. When I went to Venezuela after 2 years, I'm talking, if I came here in 1987, in 1990 when I went, I seen children and them, the singing, they call everybody and reading plenty. So this is a pathway, this leader in the society, he create a social consciousness, and that's what have us that is kind of unity.
Good, thanks, Sister Doc.
Yes, I think that it's a great initiative to spark interest in physical books because it'll allow people to learn new things, learn about new areas, and unlike finding books online, it's not going to be locked, since a lot of stuff on the internet is sometimes locked based on region and is inaccessible without a VPN. And I think that there's this myth that young people don't like to read or that young people find some joy in being illiterate. But I think that you can't find joy in something that you're not introduced to. So I like to read, and part of the reason why I like to read is because when I was younger, if we got in trouble, my parents would make us read a book and write 2 pages by hand what that book was about for us to, get out of the punishment, right? And, some people may find that grueling, but I actually liked it since we had interesting books to read and I would learn new things from the books. But I wouldn't have known that I liked to read without being given those books to read. And I think, some people say, oh, young people aren't interested in art anymore. But sometimes young people just aren't getting paint or crayons. And so you have to physically give people stuff so they could find their interest in them. So I think it's a good initiative. And also I like that it creates regional bonds as well.
Thanks. I think I have everyone's final thoughts. It's 11:52.
So I want to make one comment. This is an initiative that a group of us in Trinidad started many years ago, prior to the pandemic. As I told, when I returned to Trinidad in 2006, I was looking at the society, and one of the things I felt was necessary was to educate people. And so 2 things I got involved. We opened up primary school, right, which housed children from 3 years to 12. And the second thing we did was we had book fairs in primary schools. We did that for about 5 years and before the pandemic, and the pandemic sort of, caused us to stop it. But one of the things we did with the book fair, we established classroom libraries in the community in which I'm from. It's a rural community, one of the least educated communities, least newspaper readership, which is the southeast part of Trinidad. Incidentally, is the place with all the oil and gas. Highest among the latrines in Trinidad and Tobago at the time, and so on. So we were a community that, despite the oil well being and residing there, we didn't benefit from it. And so one of the initiatives we had was to set up book fair. We did a book fair every year. And the proceeds from the book fair, we encouraged people to buy books, and we proceeded to start up classroom libraries. And we were able to donate books to 52 primary schools in the Southeast, what is called Southeast Education Division in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's something I hope we can return to, because I had to leave, got caught up with the pandemic. But we felt that we had to move beyond the 15-year-old. We had to go start at the primary level and inculcate reading and the love of reading at that level. So if you go up to a website called the Rio Claro Heritage website, an organization we formed, which I'm no longer part of, but you will see photos of the books and the book fairs. And sometimes we brought in, like Ron here, we brought in the Indian ambassador, and he brought books from India. We brought in the Canadian ambassador. So that is a project that I think could go Caribbean wide. In fact, I'm working right now with somebody in another Caribbean territory to see if we can also establish a book fair that targets primary school children. I think these initiatives are very important in terms of raising social consciousness and the love of reading.
Give thanks, Brother Akko. 1 minute for final thoughts. Comrade Juan, Sister Dr. Tamanisha, and then Brother Akko. 1 minute. Final thoughts.
What I can say this, the teachers is very important. A teacher is very important, but one of the things what I will put for a teacher is supposed to be a good actor, and not, because most of the time they could teach you something and it's boring. When you're a good actor, you will get good student and good reader. Thank you.
Thank you for being our guest this morning. Sister Dr. Tamanisha.
No
I keep saying your name wrong. Tamanisha John. Sister Doc, Tamanisha John.
Yes, I don't have any final comments. I just liked being on the program today.
Thank you. Brother Akko?
Thanks to the guests, and consciousness raising is very important, and programs like these are important to advance people's intellectual development and social consciousness. Our media, our traditional media, has done us and continues to do a disservice to our communities. And unfortunately, we don't have enough programs like these in the Caribbean. So thanks to XTV, Creme Radio, and Mandala newspaper for being over 30 years as an independent media source in Belize and in the Caribbean.
Big respect. One of our listeners in the region, Belizean, sent a long text. Because I could read it. It said, appreciated the real talk about how sanctions work and murder of people, always poor and therefore expendable. It is infuriating and saddening. People also must understand that there is no exceptionalism. It will touch everyone's door. The pardoning of the former president of Honduras makes a mockery of the narco-terrorism verbiage, and worse, the 99 lives already lost. There is an excellent map that shows the ever-widening range of extrajudicial killing in the Atlantic and now the Pacific. I was glad to hear about the discussion of actions, also as a reaction to the Road and Belt Initiative. Waking up to the realization that you have handed over the reins of access and influence is not a justification for regime change, indiscriminate killings, and false accusations. Thank you. Good of you to have this conversation. Respect, Sistrin. Thanks to the people anyway. I'll share the link. We'll listen on Creme Radio, XTV, the Amanda newspaper for the ads every week. This show will repeat at 5:30 this evening on XTV. Amanda newspaper is 56 years old. Creme Radio is 36 years old. The organization I lead, Youth Bad Education Foundation, is 29 years old. And XTV is 21 years old. And we couldn't do this without people support. Absolutely people support. So big thanks to our guest. But make sure I get it right this time. Anthropologist, Comrade John Sorillo, and our political scientist, Sister Doc Tamanisha John. Big thanks for being guests. Our security guard today was Shane Flowers at XTV. Our technical director was Christy Flowers. And downstairs in Creme Radio, I believe it's Larry Guerrero, known as Larry G. Big thanks for the reasoning, for the years of service, for to get to this level of knowledge, for sharing so freely with Sister Doc Tamanisha and Comrade Juan. We appreciate you and the work under the door for years, especially Comrade Juan, and having the analysis as a Venezuelan and someone who carries Trinidad and Tobago citizenship. As usual, our resident revolutionary, Brother Mutota. This will be my last Sunday review for 2025. I know one day next Sunday, but no worry. But I come one day and I talk loud, I yell when I get excited at my voice raised. Sunday review this year was different because Brother Akko insisted on us looking at Caribbean news story. And so most of the guests on the city share because of Brother Akko link. And I have grown tremendously. So big thanks, Brother Akko Mutota and his life partner, Sister Fanta Mutota. My life has changed for the better, meeting Uno and knowing Uno and all the people I want to bring forth to make we could listen and learn. Next Sunday, to make sure the tuning camp, Brother Akko and the out for his team. Until the new year with health and strength. Remember say, only organized people could change. I forget my own saying. Only organized people could change the people.
Yeah, same.
Because I used to say only the people could change the people, but it's only organized people could change the people because we know what's in our best interest. We have to stop to make other people lead and do for we. We have everything what we need. We have to have the confidence enough for ourselves and each other, bet on each other that we could have our own solutions. Solidarity forever.
Thank you again, Dr. John, and my good compañero, Juan Sorillo. Hasta mañana.
No, hasta pronto.
Okay.
Guatemala, this time we have figure. Nobody do it to no Guatemala. This time my name is Pupa. Belize me come from the Belize City area. 110% Belize and proud of it. Don't tell me about maritime area. Long time ago agreement by the slave master. Talking about the head on the Belize and dollar because patriots. All people who love them country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up to another nation. Country bad love them homeland. Will never give it up.